Hello, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to our first interactive chat with the topic on how to successfully set up a sustainability strategy for manufacturing companies. Just up front, this is really an interactive chat. Sophie and me are going to have a talk about the topic, but if you want to drop in any questions, remarks, or anything, that you want to know, please feel free to use the question section basically that you should be seeing. Um, and otherwise, I just welcome Sophie also. And Sophie is a senior implementation engineer for sustainability in Makersite. She is an ecologist by study, and for the last 15 years, she has applied her knowledge of ecology onto the industry and has been a consultant about the environmental part of sustainability for a lot of enterprises and companies. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for the talk today. I'm looking forward to it.
Then if you're fine with that, we can just start into the conversation. And I'm guessing that one start into it is to really ask the question how can I in my company decide what is essential in the topic of sustainability for me and my company? How do I start?
Yeah. So if you're new to a company, I think the first step is always getting to know everything. I know usually if you're starting, you're under certain pressure to reach certain things in a certain time frame, but I think it's really important to first understand the structure of the company, the products you're producing, the range of things you are doing, the suppliers you're getting off. So I think the first few months you should spend on getting to know the different departments, the different people, and the different products before even starting to think about a sustainability strategy. I think the basis is really getting to know everything and everybody essentially, and also starting to get in touch with people who are whether working with you in that topic and are your main contact persons, or are just interested in the topic, because the sustainability strategy is always a team effort, and one person alone will have problems to actually do everything which is somehow connected to it. Yeah.
Okay, and then once I got to know the company, maybe one question from my side first, are there teams that are more important for me to get to know? Like who should be my prime contacts maybe?
Yeah. That's a little bit maybe depending also in what company you're working for, but of course you should get to know compliance and legal. You should get to know procurement, and of course then if it's a production company, like production, and then the engineers who are following the product from designing stage to actually the gate of the production when it's sent out. So there, of course, and also the sales specialists, because they will give you some overview about the customers and what exactly the customers expect from your product. There will be also some people who will be very interested to work with you, and that's probably marketing because they actually need your information to get it out to the customers. But I think from a sustainability perspective of things, it's really understanding the product, the procurement side, and the legal side of things, because that's also really important for sustainability strategy. Yeah.
Okay, and once I've made my rounds, I know the stakeholders in the company. What's my starting point then? How do I know, where do I start? What do I need to know about the company, the products, and
Yeah.
how do I even know how to approach
Yeah.
the next
As
step?
I said there, so the thing is, it's a team effort, right? So I hope for you, if you're in a company, that you have some people who will help you, because usually you have some clear things you have to fulfill, right? For example, a scope 3 reporting, or a general GHG reporting, or they expect some other reports from your side. So the first thing, if you have had the time to get to know everything, I think the next step is then to gather the data you will need. As I said, it's sustainability is a broad topic. So as I said, it's compliance, it's also the legal perspective of things, the cost side of things, so sales and procurement, the suppliers, and then of course like the standard things you need for example, for life cycle assessment and for greenhouse gas reporting, like energy data and so on and so forth, right? So I think the next big portion is actually gathering the data. Yeah. And then of course evaluating the data, and that's depending on what technology you're able to use and how big the budget is you can use in the company. It can be a easier or harder task, yeah, but to get an overview about your data and to have them all in place in the right structure, and to know the right people which will give you the data, that's for sure the second and actually most important step, because you will need to do that every other month, year, or so on, depending on what data you actually are asking for. Yeah. So unfortunately or fortunately, data gathering is one of the biggest things you have to do as a sustainability person in a company, because just if you understand the data and also the gaps you have, you know what gaps to fill, and then you can actually work with the data and get out some information, which is then actually important to get to a point where you can structure a sustainability strategy. Yeah.
Okay, and we actually have like a question coming
Yeah.
in. Basically, it is asking like what would be the best way to gather the correct data, but maybe like you said, it's obviously also dependent on the budget. But maybe you can give some overviews about ways that you could like gather the data you need.
Yeah. So, I mean, usually you have already data everywhere. In the best case, they are already in like just some systems, but in the most cases, you have the data you need in several systems all over the company. In the worst case, they are even just in Excel format, which is really the worst case. In the best case, you just have different tools which you have to use and where you have to get your data out. Yeah. In the best case, you actually have your own tool and you have some sort of you automatically have some sort of talking between all the tools, so you get them directly in your tool. Yeah, that is something where you actually will need the IT department to help you to create these structures so that you have an automated data upload in your system you're using. The worst case, it's actually really having to work with Excel output out of the different systems. Yeah, but usually, even though even though people will tell you they don't have data about it, the data are somewhere. It's just maybe that the data are not where they are to be expected to be. Yeah. So it could be that you need some data from procurement, but out of some reason they are with compliance, or the other way around. So actually, the better you can describe what data you need to the people, the more or the easier it might be that you get them. Yeah. And as I said, best case is that you already have a system in place and the engineers can tell you exactly what is in there and what is not in there. And in the worst case, it's actually really also understanding the IT structures which are in the company you're at. Yeah.
Okay. And another quick question, if you don't mind. In your experience, do you have any examples for companies that like did a good job at gathering data? How would that look like? Would that look like what you just described? Like
Yeah.
basically having it coming together in one
Yeah.
system, or multiple systems that have like a way of communicating with each
Yeah.
other?
Yeah, I have worked and I'm working with several companies who have efforts to actually bring all their data in the ERP system. Yeah, so in their main central system, so even if they have some other like island solutions, they try to bring everything in one system so that they have one system which can talk then to the different sustainability software tools, right? I mean, we, for example, of course, as Makersite, we actually have that advantage that we directly take the data out of the systems and use them in our system as they are, right? But sometimes you have other sustainability software tools where you actually need them in a certain way. So if you have them centralized in an ERP system, that's of course good, because then you also can sometimes you can just reformat them in a certain structure so that they can actually go into another tool, right? So yes, there are many companies out there who understand that task and they are actively working on gathering the data in one central system to get them out. Yeah. And that, I think, to understand your data and to have a hand over your data and have them all in the same format, that's actually a huge task, which is just the preparation to go into a sustainability strategy, but it's an important part for everything, basically, because if you don't understand your data, you actually have absolutely no clue. No innovation can be done correctly if you don't have an overview about the data.
Mm-hmm. And if we come back to basically the how to set up a sustainability strategy, we were at the point of, okay, now you have gathered the data that you need, the data
Yeah.
about the products, about the supply chain, and what's next?
Yeah.
How it's, I mean,
I
now
mean,
that there's
theoretically, it's like a matrix you have to build up, right? You have your requirements in the different areas, like, as I said, some legal requirements, you have environmental requirements, you have cost requirements, of course, you have social requirements. That list can be as long or as short as the company wish to have it, right? And then you have your products on the other side. So you have a matrix, and all the products have to fulfill these points at a certain point, right? So what you have to have in the end is more or less these are the best performers. That's like the mediocre performers, and that's the worst performers. And then you can build up a strategy, like on product level. You can say, okay, that's where I have to talk to suppliers. That's where I have some legal problems. Maybe that's something I have to phase out, or I have to put innovation there, right? You can decide on, I will actually invest in these products because these are my best performers and I want them to grow. Or you can say, I invest in another product in the mediocre state to get that into the best performance, right? And then that is, of course, for manufacturing companies, right? Because they are product focused. There are also other things like other things which go into a sustainability strategy depending on how, from what perspective you see it. Yeah, because also company itself has, maybe they have some investments or something like that. Yeah, a company is not just manufacturing and that's it. Sometimes there are other parts to the company which also bring in money. You have to take that into account as well. But I think the most important thing is actually to have an overview about your product portfolio and be able to say, okay, that's where I want to go. And then you can actually define a strategy which takes into account all the different requirements. Yeah, you define before that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we have another question on basically data.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how deep would you need to go into the data, basically?
Yeah, as deep as you can. So, the more data and the more specific data, the better. Yeah, there
Okay.
is, of course, it's getting harder to manage that, but there are tools out there. I mean, Makersite is actually doing something like that, right? We are able to manage a huge amount of data and sort them out, and I think that's actually important. I know that for first step, or because companies are in hurry, they go on a very high level into things, but they soon are all realizing that to really define a strategy over the next 10 years, you actually have to go more into detail. I mean, that's so it's clear. The more specific your data, the better information you will get out
So
of it.
really going into the deep tiers of the supply
Yeah.
chain, knowing like what
Yeah.
was this product made
Yeah.
of, what were the
Yeah.
pieces that
Following
it,
each step.
yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, it if you have like 10,000 plus products, it makes sense to start with the bigger patch or the one which is very relevant because it is has legal concerns or something like that. Yeah. So you will have a starting point to go everywhere. Like in death, you will need a really huge team, but as a starting point, the big patch, you will have to follow each step to really make things better. As we know, I mean, from carbon footprint perspective, like about 80% of your impact are hidden in your supply chain. So the better the information is you get from your suppliers, the better the output will be and the better your strategy and also your risk assessment will be. Because if you understand the deep tiers of your supply chain, you also know better the risks which might hide in there, right? Because if you don't even know that in tier 4 you actually have someone or some relevant sites somewhere where something happens, right? Then you don't know that you have a risk there. So yeah, the better the data, the better for you and your strategy. Yeah.
And what you just mentioned, like you mentioned also in the beginning, a little bit like looking at the legal side of things, right? What legislations do you have to comply with? And here we have a lot of evolution in the direction of Scope 3 reports being mandatory. So yeah, I'm guessing that this will become more and more important for companies to have like the deep tier look into
Yeah.
their supply chains and not only this high level view because it's simply not enough. Yeah.
I think it's also important to understand that it's not just something which comes from the outside. I think it's really important for companies to understand that it is also has to come from inside the company, right? Because if you don't care and just do the bare minimum to comply, you can't foresee risks, and that's actually really dangerous to your business. So if you don't understand that you have to you have to somehow have sustainability strategy in place, I would say the probability that you're not here anymore in like 10 years or that you shrinked a lot is quite high. Yeah. So if you want to have a business, you should do that out from an intrinsic motivation, not just because you're pressured from the outside.
Yeah, and I see it like even in studies on like for example sustainable procurement that there are also like a lot of chances in that actually like
Of
that
course.
companies actively can like perform better once they have the data and once they have the insights and once they like apply something like
Yeah.
sustainable procurement or even eco design. So yeah, that's maybe something that many companies also don't see to see it as a business case, and that probably correlates with the question of like once I set up a sustainability strategy, how do I get my colleagues on board?
On
How do I
board.
get
Yeah.
the whole company basically on board for that? Because
Yeah.
in the beginning, it means a lot of investment.
It's in the beginning, it's a lot of investment, it's a lot of hard work, and it's sometimes really frustrating. I know that just by seeing my customers and helping the customers, which I had in the last 15 years. But on the other hand, if you have some lighthouse projects which you can sell to people, if they have something they can be proud of because they worked on it so hard, if you build up your networks and if you do also like workshops and also educate people on the topic, they actually start to get proud on it, and it's actually a motivation for the whole company if it works out right, because people will also have some pride to work there and doing the right thing. And I think you should never underestimate that the positive sides of having a sustainability strategy. I know it's very likely that some people just see the costs and not the positive effects of it, but they are there. and you actually, if you have someone in your team who is really good in communicating internally, then that's a big plus because it will help you to get people on board. And if it doesn't help and no one is like happy about it, and it's after like hard work of 1 or 2 years or 3 years and no one still is recognizing it, and it's still just a, oh, we have to do it thing, then actually I'm about to say, okay, please then go into another company and work there because that's, yeah, it's just, that's,
It's probably similar to companies that just want to comply with the
yeah,
legislation, right?
yeah,
And that don't invest
yeah, yeah,
anything that you say,
yeah,
that probably they're, yeah, they might, like, they have a good chance to go out of business because they're like missing a lot of insights that come with
exactly.
the research.
And chances, a lot of
Yeah.
open doors and chances will be missed. So if you don't see it as a chance, the whole thing, and it's just a burden to you, yeah, then that's not the best like
Then why even
motivation
set
to
up
do it.
a
Exactly.
strategy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That doesn't go together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But
And
I've seen good examples on where people really are proud
mhm,
that they're working in a company, and where you see that they really are really happy that they can show something to the customers and to the outside and also to the inside. And yeah, you see that there's a drive in the companies who
I mean, I
successfully
think
set it up. Yeah.
for a lot of people, it brings like a lot of value into their work if they know that they, yeah, can work on something that
Yeah.
is important for our,
Yeah.
yeah, well-being, living, and
And
stuff like that.
actually, usually, if you have a sustainability strategy and something works out, usually you have also, it's something which also comes with a better price or something like that. So usually
Mm-hmm.
you will have a high investment in the beginning, but it will pay back at a certain point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that it's just like, pure investment and never pays back. It will pay back. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a point of you can't expect things to work after half a year if you
Mm.
start right now. Of course, if you're
Mm-hmm.
already like in a longer process, that's something different. But we were talking about your starter and you start now, then you can't expect things to work out in half a year. That's just too less time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we have another question that also, like, it seems like the data is really yeah, gathering the data is a big step, and it's
Yeah,
really
the
yeah,
hardest one. Yeah.
important basically. But maybe it comes together. The question is like, I don't have much primary data. Where do I begin? But
Yeah.
maybe it also goes together with our question of like, how can I work together with my suppliers, for example, to
Yeah.
get more data?
Yeah. I mean, for price and legal compliance, there are data in the company. If not, it's a wonder that it's running, right? So we will have prices from your procurement, you will have legal data and compliance data internally, usually. Uh, um, for the environmental data, like life cycle assessment data, you actually, if you don't have that, you have primary data on your production, hopefully somewhere, right? You have energy data, you have you have the procurement data, you have recipes or something like that, or bill of materials on how your product is made and how much weight it has and stuff like that. So you have primary data on that. If, of course, at a certain point you have to go into secondary data, you need external databases. There are many lifecycle databases out there you can use. Yeah. And of course, that's where you will start to recognize that you will have to get to your suppliers and start supplier questionnaires, for sure, to get a better idea. Because if you have just if you just have like 5 or 6 if you have like 5 or 6 suppliers which supply you the same thing, and you have just one external data set you can apply, then they all look the same, even if they are not. So you will have to start to regionalize the data. You will have to start to ask your suppliers for more exact data on, maybe they already have some environmental impacts they can deliver you, or they have some data on energy or material use, they can share with you. But you will have to redefine the data you get with time, right? So you have a starting point where you will probably use what you have in house plus some external databases, and then you have to refine it over the years. Yeah.
And this can already be like a really valuable step, right? I remember, for example, doing an interview with Makersite's founder Neil D'Souza, and he was talking about basically what you can like do already in the first tier of your supply chain, and obviously depending on which industry you're in. If, for example, in your first tier there's like a lot of energy consumption, or you're getting delivered, for example, steel, it makes vast differences if what kind of energy supply you have, or if the steel that you're getting is like recycled or not, and stuff like that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
this can already be like a
A
big.
huge difference. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's also something we have talked about it before. You will have your data in your systems, right? And it of course makes a difference, and that's the gap filling, which I somehow somehow touched but not talked about it. You might have the information that you're using different kind of plastics, right? But you have no idea how much recycled content you're actually using. So that's where you have to fill the gaps, go to your suppliers and ask that, because that will redefine on the first tier. It will already redefine your results, of course, right?
Mm.
So that makes a difference, of course. But if you and that's different, right? Some companies already have that in place. It's depending on the industry. Others have no idea, no clue at all. So they have to go with standard data, and then they have to redefine it. Yeah, but it's a process. I think that's the most important thing. A sustainability strategy is nothing which is set up in a half a year and then I stick to exactly that all the all the years. It's something which is a process where you actually have to invest some things to make it right. Because if you don't make it right, the chance or the risk that you have done innovations at the wrong place, right? That or actually money spent on things at the wrong place is really high, and you want to avoid that, right? That's all costs. Which if you, I mean, we all know sustainability at first is an investment, so you want to do that investment right. So you should take time to make it right. Yeah, at least that's my experience also, that people are really not happy if they come back after 2 years and seeing that they have done something wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But sometimes it happens, right? That
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that you realize only after spending money on the wrong
The
things.
wrong. Yeah.
But I mean that's like the debate on the topic of offsetting and
Exactly.
stuff like that. But I'm just going to jump in. We have like some more questions, and it is. In rough like terms, can you say what the proportion of companies, what proportion of companies has access to primary material data? Maybe do you have any info on that, or a feeling what you would say?
Can you maybe explain the question a little bit better? Because I'm not 100% sure if I understand it right.
It's about like basically having like your feeling on how many many percent of companies
Yeah.
do have access to primary material data.
So primary data in the sense of, because
Materials
material
in
in
your
your,
bill of materials,
yeah,
basically.
okay, yeah, percentage. I think the bigger the company, or so the bigger the company, the more the likelihood that they have good data in place. But also, if the company is relatively young or was set up in a certain mindset of sustainability, and there are some around, then the probability is also really high that they exactly know what they are doing, right? And in between, there is then a quite big amount of companies which might know that they are buying steel from a certain supplier, and that's it. right? It just it has to function in the technical, has to have the technical properties. It has to have a certain price, and that's it. I would still say that this is quite a huge bunch of companies, yeah, but they're, I think, in the middle play field of companies size, from a sizing perspective. Yeah, that's not really a percentage. I'm sorry for that, but at least it's a certain description of where.
Yeah, the person who asked the question already said thanks for your answer, and that it's also their take on the thought, basically. Yeah. Okay, and maybe also on data, any any thoughts on how can I see what's good and what's like bad data? Is there like some rules or on that?
Oh yeah, but that's that's
The whole
that's a
different
topic.
or
That's a big topic, and I have to think about how to answer that in 2 sentences.
That's fine. We can also, I mean, that was just what was going through my head.
No, I mean, it's so data per se are not good or bad. They are just data, right? In the connects to other things, they are getting good or bad. So the intention of what you want to do with the data makes them good or bad. So it's a little bit hard. So if you want to do a greenhouse gas reporting, then you have certain aspects of your data you want to have, right? But that's different if you just want to have a pricing point out of your data. So it is a little bit a matter of what you want to reach with the data you have to say if they are good or bad, right? If you ask me about life cycle assessment, then there is a clear answer to that. But if we are talking about a sustainability strategy, and that's not just LCA, there are more things to that. So data have to actually fulfill quite a lot of stuff to work, right? Yeah, but as I said, there are so many things to talk about in that topic that I really that's a good topic for the next talk, I would say, or for the for another talk. Right now it's just too much to talk about, I think.
Yeah, but also a question on that that just came in was that if you know of any like open data lakes that address sustainability.
Open data, what? Sorry?
Lakes?
Like, I guess it's like sources.
I guess too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can put something together and we can send it out to whoever was here. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So we're going to provide you with the information after this. Okay, and then maybe because we talked about we talked a lot about like the environmental impact, but obviously many companies also have, for example, social impact. Want to view on that, want to view on all the EHS critique criteria, and how can I basically guarantee that I'm not overlooking anything in the process of setting up the sustainability strategy.
As always, there is no guarantee in life. No, but I mean, something which is really important if you're working in the field of sustainability and you're a sustainability manager, I think, which has to be clear, is you never stop to learn, and you actively have to be on top of what is happening in the market. That's why I also said you have to have a team, because at a certain point it's getting really hard to be on top of everything. And actually social impacts are an own topic on itself. There's happening a lot of things are happening in social LCA, for example, which it's a huge top. Right, there's a lot of research going on in that topic, but you also can see it from a very pragmatic side of things. It's also a question of supply chain resilience in some kind. So there are many topics, for example, for the social part of things, where you actually have to know stuff Yeah. So you definitely need to, yeah, just have whether a person in the team which has the time to be on top of that, or stay on top of things by yourself. And that's not just valid for social indicators. That's also valid for everything else, right? Also in the field of environmental, in the environmental part of sustainability, you have to be on top of things, right? If you are focused too much on greenhouse gas emissions and reporting on that, because of course it's an important topic, don't understand me right, but there are also other things which have to be looked after, and you should not um, forget that forget that stuff. So it's always a constant. I would even say it's not a struggle, but it's a race, and you just have to try to stay somehow in the forefront to not to forget anything. Yeah. And it's a complex topic. Yeah. So that's the thing. That's also maybe a common misunderstanding, or was to a certain extent, that the sustainability is actually quite easy to do, more or less. Yeah. I have people, I was talking to a lot of people who after like working 1 year with them, they were like, okay, it's much more complex than we ever thought it is, right? And you can't make it easier, because if you make it easier, you're having the risk of forgetting something. So as it is a complex topic, you need the people who have an idea of it, and you have to stay on top of things to understand and to not forget something. That's the only thing I can tell you. Um, yeah,
Maybe
learning,
there's
learning,
also,
learning.
yeah, well, that's a question from my side that just came up in my head while you were just talking. Because when I talk to, yeah, sustainability managers, just like
Yeah.
did some interviews, and asking them about like the way that they got into this job was mostly by chance. It was mostly people who were taking up other positions, and don't have a background in,
Mhm.
yeah, ecology, something like that, which is not necessarily bad, obviously, because people can learn, people can grow into these positions. But I'm wondering, like, do you need a certain kind of expertise on yeah, the topics? I'm guessing it can be helpful, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're the manager of your team, yes, you should at least have an overview about the topics, right? You don't have to be a specialist in everything, but you have to have an idea of what what's around. So, yes, I think it's a good thing that also other business like or professions are getting into the topic, right? So no matter if it's economics or marketing or something else, I think that's important, because we just don't have that many people who are ecologists or something in that area. Yeah. And also, I think it's always the more insights from, or the more perspectives you have on something, the better the ideas are which grow out of it, right? And second, but yes, you should have a basic understanding of natural sciences. That's actually something which I sometimes miss. I'm also doing some like uh, courses at university, which I'm holding, and I think it's really important to understand the basic of things. Like if you never had any idea of economics, you should at least have some basic understanding. If you never had any, or if your natural sciences courses are like years ago, you did it in school, you should refresh your knowledge on ecology. And that's like going on. So at least the basic understanding should be there, and then you can be specialist in a certain part of the whole thing in the team, right? But a common understanding and a common basis has to be there. Yes, that's my absolute yeah, because otherwise in a team you will start to discuss about things which are so basic, right? So you need to have the same base to fly,
Mm, mm,
basically.
mm.
That's, I mean, that's my
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah, that's
understanding of
fine.
how it
I
should
mean,
work.
we're here to discuss our
Yeah,
takes on
yeah,
things, right? So
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
totally fine.
yeah,
Okay, basically looking at the yeah, highlighted stuff for the meeting, we went through most of the stuff that we wanted to talk about. Um, is there anything missing from your side, or
If there are no open questions from people in the chat,
right now
okay.
everything is answered. Everything we talked about, everything that came in as a question. So maybe towards our participants, if you have any open questions, then post them now. Otherwise, Sophie, thank you so much for your time and bringing us these insights. We just got a feedback that it was a great webinar, and thank you to us, but
Thank you
mostly
very
thanks
much.
to you for your
Yeah.
expertise and your insights. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're maybe for the participants, if you're interested, we're going to host another session like this with one of our other experts in like about a month's time. We're also going to promote it on our social media. So if you want to attend again, then make sure to look at our channel. And otherwise, I'm wishing everyone a good rest of the day. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for being here.